All right, today we are diving into what might be one of the most savage, brilliant, and just bitingly funny plays ever written. We're talking about Ben Jonson's 17th century masterpiece of greed, Volpone, or The Fox. So, let me ask you a question. Who was Shakespeare's biggest rival? I mean, when you think of the giants of that era, one name just dominates, right? But what if I told you that back then, Shakespeare had a rival who was so formidable, so respected, and so completely different that a lot of people actually considered them equals? And yeah, it's probably not who you're thinking of. Okay, here's a hint. Forget some fancy, refined aristocrat. This guy, he was a bricklayer, a soldier, and, get this, a convicted felon. We're talking about a man who worked with his hands, fought for his country in single combat, and then went on to kill another man in a duel. And for that, he got branded on his thumb. That man was Ben Jonson. And he was a towering figure in every single sense of the word, physically huge, intellectually brilliant, and, well, profoundly arrogant. This wasn't just another playwright. Oh no. Jonson was more like a literary dictator, a classicist, a moralist who believed the stage was his operating table for dissecting and correcting all of human foolishness.
And this contrast between him and Shakespeare, it's everything. While Shakespeare was painting with this broad brush exploring the entire universe of human nature, love, loss, jealousy, the whole shebang, Jonson was like a laser, a focused satirist. Their rivalry wasn't just personal beef. It was a clash of two totally different ways of seeing art, and it shaped everything that came after. Jonson wasn't trying to capture all of humanity. He was trying to pin it to a board and expose its greed, its vanity, and its hypocrisy with the precision of a surgeon's scalpel.
So, okay, how does a bricklayer even become a literary legend? It's a wild story. And honestly, to get Jonson's art, you really have to get the man behind it. His life was just as dramatic as any of his plays. I mean, it was this constant battle against his circumstances, and let's be real, against pretty much anyone who got in his way. I mean, just look at this timeline. It's nuts. He starts out doing manual labor as a bricklayer. Then he joins the army and famously kills an enemy in one-on-one combat. Then he comes back to London, kills a fellow actor in a duel, and only avoids being hanged because he could read a verse from the Bible, the benefit of clergy loophole, and only gets branded as a felon. And yet, the same guy becomes the first ever poet laureate of England. You can't make this stuff up. It's an absolutely incredible story. And that personality, yeah, it comes through loud and clear in everything we know about him. Jonson knew he was brilliant, and you better believe he made sure everyone else knew it too. He was fiercely proud, he loved to argue, and his ego was probably the size of London itself. But you know what? That same fire is exactly what fueled his art. So, Jonson wasn't content to just write plays. No, he had to develop a whole theory of drama that would basically change English comedy forever. And it all starts with this one unique concept, the humor. Okay, now this is the key to understanding him. When Jonson says humor, you gotta forget, haha, funny. That's not what he means at all. For him, a humor was an imbalance. It was a single personality trait that was so dominant, so all-consuming, that it warped everything else about a person. So think of it like a character who is completely defined by one single powerful obsession. And Jonson himself described it perfectly. I mean, listen to this. He's talking about a force that's so strong, it literally pulls a person's entire being, all to run one way. So whether that obsession is greed or jealousy or vanity, it becomes their entire identity. That's it. That's who they are. And this is where the genius of it all comes in. See, the comedy in a Jonson play isn't about clever one-liners or, mistaken twins or whatever. Nope. It's about the inevitable, glorious, hilarious chaos that happens when you stick a bunch of these single-minded, obsessive people in a room together and just watch their obsessions crash into each other. And you know what? There is absolutely no better example of this comedy of humors in action than his 1605 masterpiece of vicious satire, Volpone or The Fox. Okay, so the setup for this play. It's beautifully simple and just dripping with cynicism. Our main guy, Volpone, which, by the way, means the fox in Italian, he's a rich nobleman who pretends to be on his deathbed. He has no heir, so what happens? All these hopeful legacy hunters swarm his house, bringing these insane gifts, each one hoping to be named the sole heir.
And the whole time, Volpone and his servant Mosca are just raking it all in, laughing their heads off at how greedy everyone is. See, Volpone isn't sick at all. He loves money, for sure, but he loves the game even more, the thrill of conning greedy people by using their own greed against them. What Jonson does here is he basically turns Venice into a savage animal kingdom. It's a zoo of human greed. And every single character isn't just defined by their humor. They're literally named after the animal that perfectly represents their particular flavor of greed. So the cast list is basically a who's who of predators and scavengers. You've got Volpone the fox, naturally, his servant Mosca, the parasite fly. Then the legacy hunters show up. There's Voltore the vulture, a lawyer circling for the inheritance. There's Corbaccio the raven, this ancient miser who's so greedy he's actually willing to disinherit his own son to get Volpone's money. And then you have Corvino the crow, a merchant so eaten up with greed he tries to offer up his own wife. These guys are the carrion birds, and they think Volpone is the dying carcass they've come to feast on. And this is literally how the play opens. Volpone wakes up, and it's not a prayer to God, it's a hymn to his gold. Open the shrine that I may see my saint. For this guy, wealth is his religion. His gold is his God. It's such a shocking and brilliant way to immediately show us his all-consuming humor, pure, unadulterated greed. So, yeah, Jonson is painting a pretty bleak and cynical picture here. In the Venice of this play, there is just no room for actual goodness. You're one of two things. You're either a clever rogue like Volpone and his sidekick Mosca, or you're a dupe, a fool who's completely blinded by your own greed. It's a world where being smart just means you're better at being a crook. Okay, so at this point, you might be thinking, why are we talking about a play from over 400 years ago? I mean, why does this cynical comedy about a guy faking sick in bed still hit so hard today? Just think about this for a second. This play premiered in 1605. 1605. We're talking about a world of horse-drawn carriages, the plague, public executions. It feels like a completely different planet, right? And yet, the central theme is just timeless. The relentless pursuit of wealth at the expense of morality, that never ever goes out of style. Jonson's satire on how the lust for money makes people do monstrous, absurd, and just plain awful things, it feels like it could have been written yesterday. The play is like a dark mirror, and the reflection it shows us is, well, uncomfortably familiar. So let's wrap this up. What are the key takeaways here? First, remember Ben Jonson, the brilliant, brawling bricklayer who became a literary giant and Shakespeare's biggest rival. Second, get his comedy of humors, this idea that comedy comes from obsessive characters crashing into each other. Third, Volpone is way more than just a classic play. It's a masterful, savage satire on the corrupting power of greed. And finally, its themes are just as powerful today as they were back in the 17th century. It's a timeless warning about what happens when money becomes our one and only God. And that leaves me with one last question for you. Jonson aimed his fire at the lawyers, the merchants, and the greedy heirs of his time. So if he were writing Volpone today, right now, in our world of tech billionaires, social media influencers, and political power brokers, who do you think his carrion birds would be?